Okay, good morning.
Good morning, everyone.
It's April. Beautiful day here in sunny
Very
Faversham.
sunny day.
Yes, latest instalment of our vinyl record sharing session.
Yeah.
We've had a lot of fun with the drum throne that John's sitting on to
Yeah.
try and get.
I was about the giant from Twin Peaks.
We've got some background music, which I only got yesterday actually. This is a guy called Julius Eastman. This is like a private press CD. The piece is called Feminine, and it was recorded in 1974. And Julius Eastman was a singer and composer who was an associate of Arthur Russell and part of the New York scene. He kind of sort of disappeared off the face of the earth in the early 80s and died, and no one knew that he died for sort of a whole year, and he was sort of living rough. But he's actually a really interesting composer, and this is a beautiful piece that kind of unfolds over about nearly 70 minutes. So it'll be unfolding as we share the tunes that we've been listening to.
I don't think we won't be talking for 70 minutes.
No, we won't. It's fine. We could do, but
We could do.
we won't. Anyway, we kicked off with another album that's just appeared through the letterbox yesterday, and it was Ahmed Jamal's Blue Moon, which is a double vinyl album recorded in 2012 with basically 4 musicians, 2 of whom are I think we're drum and bass with Wynton Marsalis, and also then there being Reginald Veal and Herlin Riley, and also Manolo Badrena on percussion, who's played with Weather Report and Miles.
Miles for a long time. Yeah.
And this is a great album, really fantastic. I mean, he's 82, which is extraordinary. But just with the space, the kind of percussive quality of his playing, the interplay between the musicians, really, really nice. It's kind of rare to sort of find an album by an aging jazzer that's really as good as anything they've ever done before, if not better.
Yeah, he's great.
And it's recorded beautifully as well. So
Yep. It's a very nice record. Love Ahmed Manji. And then went on to, we've had a bit of a George Duke thing in the last few sessions, and also an MPS thing. So went for it was the trio, the piano trio side of it. Really, I think this was the second, I think, record George Duke solo record he made, when he was just really transitioning from being from playing mostly acoustic piano to playing electric keyboards and so forth. And this is a trio with him and Ndugu, who was featured in a lot in an earlier session, and John Hurd on drums, and he's got a bit of a vocal on this track as well, and you can just hear the beginnings of that George Duke vocal sound, and also the synth sound on there as well. It's a very nice record actually. It's sampled a lot. This has got some amazing
and the
breaks
connection
on it.
was, John?
Connection was, I think it was a trio.
It was the trio thing.
Although, of course, the Jamal wasn't a trio, but
Well, somebody who's very influenced vocally by George Duke, and someone who we also feature regularly on our session sharing, is Thundercat, and we've both, I think, picked up the Drunk CD, which has come out in the last sort of month or so. I personally think this is his most complete album. It's quite song-based, and there's lots of short songs. There's some great collaborations. He's got a track with Michael McDonald and Kenny Loggins on, one with Kendrick Lamar, one with Pharrell, and we listened to a track called Drink Dat with Wiz Khalifa doing a rap on it. But yeah, fantastic. I think this is great. I think it's come out as something like a 4 10-inch vinyl package, which is a bit irritating really. So I'm going to stick with the CD. But yeah, definitely for me, a contender for album of the year so far.
yeah. And I revisited my album of the year from 2 years ago, I think it was now, and went for obviously connection with Thundercat and Kendrick Lamar, and went for How Much a Dollar Cost with St. James Fauntleroy, who's I don't know who that is, and Ronald Isley on there. It's just a great album. It's I keep on going back to it and just hearing more and more in it really. And he's great, I think, Kendrick.
must get that on vinyl. I've only got it on CD.
Yeah, very nice.
Well, one of the collaborators with Kendrick Lamar, I'm not sure if he is on that album, but he's definitely on the Untitled
Yeah,
album that followed,
I think he is, actually.
is this guy who is Terrace Martin. And he's a sax player. He's definitely part of that kind of Robert Glasper, Kamasi Washington, Thundercat scene. And this is a double album called Velvet Portraits. That's actually quite hard to get hold of, and it's not cheap. But it's a great album. Still kind of digging into it. But we listened to a track called Curly Martin, which did feature Robert Glasper, Thundercat, and Ronald Bruner Jr., who is Thundercat's brother, on drums. Yeah, just
Sounding very much like Chris Dave, has to be said.
sounding very much like Chris Dave. Yeah, it's that kind of scene, that kind of sound, if you like that sound. A lot of the tracks kind of sort of almost gently fall apart sort of over the course of their playing, which is kind of quite interesting. Also, I noticed the Emotions are featured. Layla Hathaway's on a track. So yeah, nice.
Great stuff.
Terrace Martin.
Then had a complete shift of groove into some very late disco. Almost kind of just approaching the edge of kind of house music, and went for Patrick Abbins and Leroy Burgess's Weekend by Freak, which is a great disco track, actually, kind of disco burnout, really. And I don't know why I played that. I just heard it. I think it came up on iPod or something like that, and I just thought, what a great track. I forgot all about it.
Yeah. Great sort of breakdown section.
Yeah. And this is the extended mix on the 12-inch, obviously.
And actually, I had a track which if we'd been DJing, we might well have followed that track with this.
Perfect combination.
Which is a track by Cognac featuring the Soul Orchestra called How High, and this is a Larry Levan mix.
Amazing track.
It was an amazing track. Again, yeah, just very exciting. I don't know, sort of just hearing all the different components that go into a really good disco track. Just really interestingly mixed, lots of percussion, and just very exciting actually to listen to.
Yeah.
So yeah, we had a lot of head nodding going on by that stage.
Yeah, heads were almost falling off. Then went for Roberta Flack, Donny Hathaway, Back Together Again, which was a bit of a kind of anthem, really, from that kind of time. Mark pointed out, it doesn't sound, production-wise, it sounds very odd, actually. It's got a very weird sound to it. Very trebly, and bassy, and no middle.
No middle.
Yeah. But it's a sort of great tune, actually.
Great, it's a great anthem.
Yeah, somebody really does, as Mark's saying, somebody needs to get hold of this and remix it, or remaster it, possibly.
So obviously Donny Hathaway, just soul pours out of him, and suddenly made me think of Maze, featuring Frankie Beverly, and I think this album's just called Maze, actually, and a track called While I'm Alone, which just has the most wonderful kind of mid-tempo groove to it, and with lovely kind of harmony vocals. This kind of got us off on a bit of a vocal tip, actually.
Yeah.
So beautifully, do check that track out. While I'm Alone, Maze, fantastic.
So we've had Maze twice in sessions.
We have,
which is quite. Then, kind of moving forward a few years, actually, and thinking of somebody who passed away in the last couple of weeks was Takashi, who was the guy who invented the Roland. Well, he started Roland, but invented the 808 drum machine. So almost the most classic sound from an 808 is SOS Band, really, and played Just the Way You Like It, which was an not early actually, it was a Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis production from probably 84 or something like that. Yeah, 1984. Kind of very epic sounding.
Yeah, massive
high
sounding.
drama. Yeah. Not very, if any, real instruments on there at all. Actually, I think probably a guitar. That's about it.
Yeah. I've been really into Michael McDonald recently. That's what I want to look like. No, it isn't.
What do you mean? What you want to look like? Has nobody told you, man?
Basically, I'd seen a video on YouTube. There's a band called Vulf, VULF, and they basically like are a young bunch of session players, I think, who have their own label, and they do very entertaining videos. But there was a video of them backing Michael McDonald doing What a Fool Believes with Solange Knowles on backing vocals. Basically just reminded me what a fantastic song that was. So I then had to seek it out and got this album. And it is fantastic. And actually there's just loads of great tracks on here. Beautiful production and a really distinctive vocal sound.
Slightly weird. I've also been listening to a lot of Michael McDonald. You know, we haven't kind of colluded on this at all.
Oh, look at that.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the look.
That is the look.
That's the look.
Yeah.
And I just love this. This is from his first solo album, and played the track I Keep Forgetting, which just a fantastic record. This actually, the production in here is just brilliant, and great drum and bass combination with Lewis Johnson and Jeff Porcaro, who of course went on to play on Thriller.
Yeah. And that was the sample for Warren G's Regulate.
Yeah, which was a G-Funk classic.
Absolutely.
Basically. Yeah. So anyway, very easy to find this. Actually incredibly cheap to pick up. A brilliant record.
Another one that's incredibly cheap to pick up and is just could be the best Stylistics album we were saying is Round
one of my
2.
very favourite records ever, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we listened to their version of It's Too Late, the Carole King tune.
Completely amazing.
It's a bit like the production on some of these, which is Tom Bell, is like a kind of sweeter soul version of the psychedelic Norman Whitfield vibe.
Yeah.
I just feel the Stylistics are very underrated.
Oh, God, really, yeah.
But yeah, that's the really beautiful album.
I mean, there's 8 brilliant tracks on
Yeah.
it, actually. They're all good. Staying with the vocal group vibe, went for... there's a very funny Facebook exchange around the writer David Toop and other people about... He's just been cataloguing his record collection and wondering how many Dells records he had, actually. And this is one of my favourite Dells records from the Cadet period. This is the Dells Sing Dionne Warwick's Greatest Hits, which is quite an odd idea for a record, really, when you think about it. Produced by Charles Stepney, featuring a lot of Phil Upchurch, and I played I Just Don't Know What to Do With Myself.
Which was
kind
incredibly funky.
Very funky and kind of funky epic at the same time. Again, there are a couple of slightly dodgy Dells records, but
Not many.
not many actually. Great.
And just every version of the tune is completely different
Yeah.
from the original.
Yeah.
That's the other thing.
And if you like Phil Upchurch's guitar playing, there's a lot of really good guitar playing on this one as well. It's the Dells Sing Dionne Warwick's Greatest Hits.
Yeah. Staying soulful, and still soulful and funky actually. We had a track from this double vinyl compilation called I'm a Good Woman. Funk classics from Sassy Soul Sisters. And we listened to the version of the Curtis Mayfield tune Give Me Your Love by a band called The Sisters Love, which is absolutely sensational funky tune with incredible vocals.
Amazing husky kind of
Yeah,
vocals.
really, really great. If you don't know this version, Give Me Your Love, Sisters Love, check it out.
Very good. Then we had a break.
We did.
We turned around, and
And a Portuguese tart.
Portuguese tart.
Yeah.
You can actually see one. Actually, we have one.
Do you want to yeah,
You
there
can
they
see
are.
the
They are
Portuguese
real.
tart. They are here. Yeah. Then went on to, and I haven't bought a contemporary. Well, I haven't bought a current reggae record for I think probably about 35 years or something like that. And
Yeah.
well, when you think about it, have you bought many since the early 80s?
Not many.
No, not
No.
of contemporary stuff.
No,
No.
no.
And I heard this on a American roots reggae station which I can't remember the name of, actually, coming out of New York. Others will probably know. And I played the track Drone Snipers off this, and it's a Sly and Robbie dub record. It's called Dub Rising. It's a huge sound on this record, as typified by the nice robot on the front and that kind of stuff. Yeah, so it's them back on form, really. Mixed by Groucho Smikle, who we used to see around the office a lot in London. And there's also a 45 RPM pressing of this, which everything blows your speakers to bits, which is quite tempting to get. I didn't know about that when I bought this. Anyway, it's called Dub Rising and it's Sly and Robbie. So, contemporary dub music.
With all the original Compass Point.
Most of the
All
original
Stars.
Compass Point on here as well, yeah. Very fresh sounding record. Yeah.
Well, we moved from that to this, which is also a contemporary sort of dancehall record, really, reggae dancehall record. This is on the Sounds of the Universe record. It's a 12-inch red vinyl, and an artist called Miss Red. And we listened into her Under Attack EP, and we listened to the track called Lock Off the Dance, which was kind of like a sort of mixture between electronica and dancehall dub, I guess, really. I kind of did a bit of research and discovered she's actually from Israel, which was a bit of a surprise. It doesn't sound...
Didn't sound at all.
Didn't sound at all like she came from Israel, but there we go, Miss Red, the kind of limited edition on Sounds of the Universe. Very nice.
From dancehall style to dancehall style, really. But going back to Horace Andy, when he moved to the States, and well, didn't move to the States, but he recorded for Wackies, which is an American reggae label, who did some great music, actually, very distinctive, very unfashionable when they started putting stuff out as well, because it was when the whole roots reggae thing was dying out a bit in Jamaica. So this is Horace, great singer Horace Andy, who of course worked with Massive Attack and others as well, and played the track Spyglass, which is in fact he covered with Massive Attack on one of the first songs. So yeah,
The Wackies label.
the Wackies label, yeah, which is a lot of material. Most of it really, really good, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I was saying it was, these records were coming out at the same time as the Adrian Sherwood On You Sound albums in England, which also were just a different kind of take on reggae.
they were
And
completely.
they don't sound the same, but they are in their own ways
Absolutely.
as different as what was happening at the time, and as distinctive in their own sound.
Yeah, very much so.
Well, we went on a bit of a reggae roll, and we've got to say, this is Doug. We were thinking of you.
This is for Doug,
This is not just for Doug, but
but for everybody. Though.
here we go. One of the very first Bob Marley and the Wailers albums on Studio One. So this is pre their Lee Perry period. We listened to Bend Down Low, which obviously got re-recorded.
Twice, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But really early kind of rock steady Wailers sound. It's apparently when Bob actually used to quite often sleep at the Studio One studio.
Absolutely nothing to see on this one at all, because it's actually not even the record it says it is. But I bought this a while ago, and it's basically a Channel One pressing from Channel One, actually, and it's the Mighty Diamonds Tell Me What's Wrong. So there's absolutely nothing to see. The label's got a little scribble on it, holes not in the middle. It actually played fine. Sounded good. Mighty Diamonds, great kind of vocal group, actually. Probably heirs to the Wailers to some extent in terms of that spiritual kind of sounding vocals. Channel One was a later period, so we're talking mid-70s. It's where, in fact, Sly and Robbie really made their name, I think, at Channel One. And this one comes from 29 Maxwell Avenue, Kingston, Jamaica.
Yeah. Well, I had to follow this up with another 7-inch Jamaican pressing.
Absolutely classic.
From the Yard label, incredible double A side of Baby I Love You by Jacob Miller, and of course the instrumental version King Tubby Meets the Rockers Uptown with Augustus Pablo, which is basically just Jacob Miller's vocal taken off and some sort of delay, but fantastic sounding pressing. This just
I've got the Island 7-inch and 12-inch, and that sounded better.
did it.
Yeah, much better.
Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah, completely. So I then my last contribution to the reggae session was the Heptones Party Time from Studio One days.
Fantastic
On
album.
the best. This is a great. I mean, if you want a compilation of Studio One stuff, there's this one and Volume 2. Actually, they're both really, really good.
Really good.
And it's just great music, just wonderful music. On the edge of end of rocksteady, beginning of reggae. Yeah. Really nice stuff, actually. And there he is, Lloyd Coxon on the front.
And my final reggae selection was another Studio One. This is the Bob Andy's Songbook. Bob Andy, really amazing sort of crooning reggae voice. We listened to the track called I've Got to Go Back Home. Sounded beautiful. A bit another kind of slightly rock steady vibe. But yeah, Bob Andy's a bit of a legend in the reggae scene.
Yeah. I think he had. Did he record for that? Didn't he go to Wackies as well?
Don't know.
I'm not sure. Maybe not. Somebody will know.
Someone will know. Doug will know.
Doug will know. Then we had another break, I think.
Yeah.
Another change, and played some Jimi Hendrix. Really don't need much excuse to do that. Played Up from the Skies from Axis Bold as Love, which has always been one of my favourite Hendrix albums, actually. Love the sound on it. I always really liked Mitch Mitchell's drumming on this record as well. He just seems to be very well recorded on there. Yeah, so don't need to say anything about Jimi Hendrix, really.
Not really. And as we don't really need to say a huge amount about the Beatles.
Not really.
Apart from this is my mum's copy of the White Album, number 422,077. So not that early, but still sounding great.
It's got photos in there.
I don't know. Probably not. But we don't need to really get
No,
this out.
don't do that. Yeah.
We listened to Savoy Truffle, John Lennon tune. It's a great album. I mean, it's just, I love the production on this as well. I mean, just the sort of mix of instruments and the kind of, I don't know, it just, everything sounds brilliant on it.
Very wide soundstage.
Very wide
Feels like
soundstage,
a real,
yeah.
It really does feel like stereo.
Yeah. Yeah.
I then played my first CD and went for Strangers When We Meet from David Bowie's Buddha Suburbia soundtrack, which I think he was quoted fairly widely saying was almost one of his favourite records he ever made, really. It was very relaxed sounding, just him and a couple of other musicians in the studio. Never been released, only been released on vinyl in Brazil, evidently, this record. Never been released on vinyl anywhere else. I think there's an edition coming soon, but it's a great record, actually. It feels more like almost like one of Robert Wyatt's kind of homemade records, actually, rather than a big production. There's some great, and Strangers When We Meet's a great song, and in fact there's some amazing live versions of that song from the reality tour, which are actually even better than the studio version. But anyway, it's definitely worth for any Bowie fans, it's definitely worth picking up, or maybe waiting for the vinyl to come.
Now, I was digging in the crate. I can't remember what her name is, but she was showing the first Edgar Broughton album, and I just picked up this, which is the second Edgar Broughton album, called Sing Brother Sing, just about a month ago, and I guess really the only thing to say, well, it doesn't really sort of tie in with David Bowie at all, actually. It was one of those ones I just wanted to play.
Yeah.
We listened to the track called There's No Vibrations But Wait, which has Edgar Broughton sounding a little bit like Viv Stanshall, actually, but with actually a very kind of funky backing. Just very sort of steeped in 1970.
Yeah.
Recorded by Peter Jenner, who John then informed me he's going to meet at
Go to a meeting tomorrow.
Yeah, tomorrow.
Yeah.
Right. So yeah, Edgar Broughton, a real kind of stars of the late 60s, early 70s underground scene, kind of alongside Pink Fairies, possibly Man,
Yeah.
Groundhogs, that kind of vibe. Very influenced by Captain Beefheart, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was when I was at school, it was very, very hip to write out Demons Out on your desk.
Right.
Which was one of their quotes. So keeping it absolutely with the main street, in a sense. Rolling Stones, Let It Bleed, Give Me Shelter, really. Don't really much of an excuse to play
Nice
that.
reissue, by the way.
Nice reissue. Yeah, recent Abco reissue, actually.
With, of course, the cake made by Delia Smith.
That was it? I
Yes.
never knew that.
Yeah.
Very good. Yeah, so anyway, part of the start of that whole run of great Rolling Stones.
Oh,
albums,
it's
really.
such an incredible track.
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
We were very much in the early 70s here, 1972. Original Pink label, Island version of Heartbreaker by Free. This is a shout out to Spirit Tweak, so I know is a massive Paul Kossoff fan. This was the last Free album to feature Paul Kossoff, although he's not on everything. But he was on the track, Come Together in the Morning. And there is this kind of really mournful feel, actually, over this album. It's obviously the band were kind of falling apart. Paul Kossoff was very much falling apart.
Yeah.
But he still was just wringing so much emotion out of every note that he plays on the guitar. I mean, they were a great band, I have to say.
Definitely. Staying with the kind of island thing, I think was the connection here. I actually played the wrong track I didn't mean to play. I played a track from a woman called Sheila MacDonald, who made 2 albums for Ireland during this time, which were both produced by Joe Boyd, who produced Nick Drake and Fairport Convention and John Martin and all kinds of people. And played a track called Stargazer, which is off the second album. She's a great, really wonderful singer, and Ireland obviously invested a lot of time and money in her and she was being touted as the new Sandy Denny, singer from Fairport Convention. And these albums are great. They're very, very difficult to find in original form, which is why I picked it up on CD. So played and she disappeared off the face of the earth, basically. She kind of got completely intimidated by the fame thing, and just disappeared. And it's only just re-emerged in the last few years. Great singer, really nice, really good records.
Beautiful orchestration.
Great orchestration. And this is a kind of compilation called "Let Me Steal Your Time," "Let No Man Steal Your Time," which he does a version of here. And there's some very, very good stuff on here. If you like Fairport Convention and Sandy Denny and all that kind of stuff, you'll definitely like this. She was seen as almost being the female equivalent of Nick Drake at one time. So pretty good.
Well, we moved straight up to date with a CD that's not available on vinyl. And this is a local singer to here, actually. She lives in our town, called Chris Wood, who I'm sure I've mentioned before. I think he's massively underrated, actually. He is one of the few contemporary folk artists who's actually writing about what's happening.
Yeah. It was quite weird hearing something which was actually about now.
Yeah, and we listened. The album's called "So Much to Defend," and that was the title track that we listened to. He's a really fantastic performer, guitarist, singer, and he really is he's carrying on a tradition of folk in terms of talking about what's actually going on. And I really recommend this. Chris Wood.
He's kind of multi. He plays more than one instrument.
Yeah, he does. Yeah.
I'm not sure. I think we're moving into singer-songwriter territory. I think this is probably the excuse for playing Ricky Lee Jones. Not that I knew much of an excuse to play Ricky Lee Jones. This is from her first album, and we've featured her on other albums in the past as well. Played the track Night Train. This record just sounds amazing still, actually. The production on it is absolutely brilliant, I think. Mark was saying that he was always put off this by Chucky's in Love, which is a bit of a cutie track, but the rest of this album is amazing. Actually, it's got some fantastic songs on it. And Company, it's a track called Company, I can barely listen to actually without cracking up. Actually, superb. Anyway, Ricky Lee Jones, real talent, still making great records. Actually, she's a consistently good artist, really.
So yesterday we had a change in the regular way things happen. We did our meet up on a Monday.
Yeah.
Because I'm on holiday and so's John. But John came early when we went to Ramsgate and went to a record shop called Vinyl Head, which was it's like an amazing selection of records, but it's also a cafe and a vegan restaurant. And it just
there's so much stuff actually. It's quite overwhelming.
Oh yes, there was but also so much stuff that you don't normally see in normal record shops.
Yeah.
Anyway, one of the records I bought there. I haven't done that big build-up. This is probably not that exciting. It's the best of James Taylor, but it was only a £5, and it's a Bernie Grundman mastering job. So I do need to clean it up. But I mean, I do love that period, sort of 69 to sort of 75 of James Taylor. I just think it's fantastic. And we listened to the absolute classic Fire and Rain, with some amazing brushes work by Russ Kunkel. Yeah. Which the sound of those drums was just actually was like sort of thunder. Yeah, great.
Definitely. I picked up a nice vinyl copy of Agata. I was very pleased about as well. Staying with that kind of same period, actually slightly later than this, Jackson Browne played the track "Late for the Sky" from the album "Late for the Sky." This is his, I think, third or fourth record. I just think he's a very good songwriter, Jackson Browne. Records always sound great. So yeah, not much to say about that.
No. We then, I think, maybe had one more break before the final selection. By this stage, it's normally, gone 11 p.m. and my wife normally is retired to bed upstairs, so the volume has to go down a bit, which slightly maybe affects our choice. Although this track did have a bit of a drum firework display going underneath it. This was Nefertiti by Miles Davis. Now, John, I think John's absolutely right. I think he actually has shown this and played it fairly recently.
yeah.
But it was the one Miles record from this period that I didn't have. So for me, it sounds fresh. But I just think it's a fascinating album in terms of almost a new sort of jazz sound unfolding before your ears. And I was reading up, and it was people calling it sort of free bop. So there is still kind of the melodic, kind of chordal stuff happening of jazz from the earlier period, but there is also this kind of avant-garde freeness going on. And this track, in particular, Nefertiti, you just have the melody being played again and again by Wayne Shorter and Miles, and it's really Ron Carter and Tony Williams who are improvising underneath.
Yeah.
And it's just very absorbing.
Yeah, it's almost like a little. Well, the drums are the featured.
Yeah, the drums, the soloist.
Going back a few years to really I think really when the whole modal side of Miles started, which was on the Lift to the Scaffold soundtrack, and this album, Jazz Track, was this is a recent mono reissue of it. Has one side it has some of the extracts from the Lift to the Scaffold, and the other side it has the first 3 songs recorded by the sextet with Cannibal Adderley and Bill Evans and Coltrane on there. And Lift to Scaffold it was an improvised soundtrack to a film, where they basically sat in front of the film and improvised the soundtrack. And
So we have the French pronunciation, please, John.
no, you can't. Not
Okay.
today. Essentially, Paul. Yeah, no, forget it. Actually. But
People don't know that John is part French.
I'm part French, but I can't speak French very well at all. Essentially, pour le chauffe.
Very nice.
But as much as you need the vinyl, you also need a CD version of this, particularly this one, because this has got 40, I think it's about 35 individual sound cues from Lift to the Scaffold, and also has all the reverb taken off as well. So there's a lot of reverb out of
There's a lot of reverb.
But great stuff, great music actually, and I think you can certainly hear where Kind of Blue came from when you hear this. Actually.
Yeah. Well, we went from one great trumpet player to another here, and Freddie Hubbard, Polar AC, for yet another version of possibly my theme tune, which is People Make the World Go Round. Lenny White on drums, Ron Carter on the bass, George Cable's on the keyboards.
Yeah, he's a real unsung hero.
Yeah, a great CTI Freddie Hubbard album.
And then our only blue note of the day, actually, which is quite unusual, went for a kind of one of the later, although it doesn't sound like one of the later, but it's a quartet album, Wayne Shorter, called Adam's Apple, played the track called El Gaucho, which is a kind of little bit of a kind of slightly twisted kind of bossa nova kind of feel to it. Band with Herbie Hancock, Reggie Workman and Joe Chambers. Very nice record actually. Got a great version of Footprints on here, which is also on Miles Smiles.
Yes, I love Footprints.
Yeah.
I was after that album.
Yeah, it's good stuff actually. And I think I saw Anders from Stockholm showing this a little while ago as well. But yeah, really good. Award's Blue Note albums are great actually.
I think this might be the worst cover of the Night Award
Definitely
to
the worst cover.
Valerie Simpson here, one half of Ashford and Simpson. This is her solo album, Early Motown, 1972. I just picked this up in the local market very cheaply, and I'd never really seen it or heard it, but every track is written by Ashford and Simpson.
And really good.
It's got it just sounds amazing. There's just lots of live playing. The songs are really strong, the playing's great, and I didn't know about Francisco Centino, the bass player. Was it, and Charles Collins? Or Buddy Williams already?
Buddy Williams, they became the kind of key rhythm section of GRP later on.
Yeah. But there's some great drum and bass on here as well.
Yeah.
I mean, not drum and bass as in contemporary drum and bass, but drum and bass playing.
I couldn't. A couple of sessions ago, I couldn't find any of my Gil Scott-Heron albums, but I found them. They were under H, I think, in jazz. I can't remember where they were, but one place I didn't look. And this is, I think, still my favourite Gil Scott-Heron album Pieces of a Man, and played the track. I think I Call It Morning. Just got great. This is full of really good tracks. This has got Lady Day and John Coltrane. Revolution Will Not Be Televised. Just a whole range.
And it's got Chuck Rainey and Bernard Purdie.
Chuck Rainey and Bernard Purdie.
Yeah.
Just thinking even on a mid-tempo track, like I think I Call It Morning, Bernard puts his signature on it.
He does.
There's a couple of little flourishes.
I've had this album to play for ages. It was actually not quite the moment because it was a bit too up-tempo for my last tune. But anyway, it's Alice Clark's Miles. It's the Mainstream Records is the label. And we listened to, I think it's called Never Did I Stop Loving You. Yes, very short track, 2 minutes 34. Soulful, bit Aretha sounding-ish. Yeah, Alice Clark.
I went completely off-piste for the last track.
This is a very appropriate score.
Yeah, and played a track of Stay Awake, which is one of Hal Wilner's they're a bit more like movies than records, actually. He basically creates a cast and does versions of, he does dedications. There's one to Mingus, there's one to Thelonious Monk, there's one to Edgar Allan Poe, and this is his tribute to Walt Disney, and he has people working on versions of Walt Disney records, everyone from Sun Ra to Sinead O'Connor to all kinds. Sun Ra do a version of the Pink Elephants March from Dumbo, which is fantastic. But I finished off by playing. It's a medley of Desolation Theme, which is played by Ken, which is narrated by Ken Nordine, the American poet from the 50s and 60s, along with Bill Frisell playing on it, and then segues into When You Wish Upon a Star, which features Ringo Starr singing.
That's appropriate.
Very appropriately, with a little trumpet solo by Herb Alpert on here. But that's a kind of incredible. I mean, they're all extraordinary records, and they kind of mostly work as well with these incredible cast lists. So yeah, Stay Awake by Hal Wilner, one of his epic compilations, really.
I think this has been an epic 37 minutes.
Oh my God, that's the longest one ever. Okay.
So thank you for hanging in there. Always love to hear any comments, and see you soon.
See you soon. Yeah. Okay.